Chosen one, stop scrolling right now, because this was released with your name on it, not metaphorically, not symbolically, but spiritually and intentionally. Time to reach you at the exact moment your soul could finally recognize it without fear. Because heaven does not miss appointments, and God does not send confirmations early or late, only precisely when the heart is ready to receive truth without breaking. And the reason this feels personal is because it is. The reason it feels urgent is because alignment has begun. And the reason it feels calm instead of chaotic is because this is not a warning. It is a confirmation. A quiet announcement from heaven saying what you survived was not random and what you endured was not wasted. Because you were never overlooked. You were being prepared in silence, shaped where applause could not interfere, strengthened where validation could not weaken the work. And you know this season was different because the battles were internal, the warfare was subtle, the pressure was quiet, and yet the weight was heavy. There were nights you questioned without speaking, days you kept moving without motivation, moments you stood still not because you were stuck, but because something inside you refused to move without clarity. And there were times you wondered if God was still listening, because the answers did not come the way they used to. But chosen one, silence was never absence. Silence was examination. Heaven was watching how you carried yourself when no one was correcting you, how you chose peace when you could have chosen reaction, how you stayed aligned when quitting would have been understandable. And just like Joseph remained faithful in prison without knowing the palace was already assigned, just like David stayed obedient in fields while the crown waited, just like Moses learned humility in isolation before confronting power, you are being shaped away from the crowd, because what is coming cannot be carried by someone who still needs approval to obey. And that is why certain people drifted, certain doors closed, certain conversations ended without explanation, because God was removing access before releasing authority, separating you from environments that would have required you to shrink. Because this release was not meant to be shared prematurely. It was meant to be protected until you could stand in it without losing yourself. And the pain you felt was not rejection, it was refinement. The delay was not denial, it was synchronization. The loneliness was not abandonment, it was alignment. And if you notice right now that your breath feels calmer, your chest feels warm, your spirit feels steady instead of restless, that is confirmation. Because truth does not rush you, it settles you. And now the revelation is clear. You had to wait because others were not ready, because systems had to shift, because environments had to change. Because if God released this earlier, it would have exposed you without covering, celebrated you without protection, elevated you without rest. And now heaven is saying, the preparation phase is complete. The silent test has ended, and what is being released next carries your name because it matches the version of you that was forged. Not the one you used to be, not the one that needed reassurance every step, but the one who learned to trust without evidence, stand without applause, and move without forcing doors. And this next season will feel different, not louder, but clearer, not rushed, but aligned, not chaotic, but calm. Because favor will arrive without effort, opportunities will appear without chasing, clarity will replace confusion, peace will precede progress, and people will respond to you differently because your presence now carries weight, not because you demand it, but because it was earned in the unseen and chosen one. You are no longer surviving what you don't understand. You are ascending into what was prepared for you, and if something inside you is nodding quietly, if your spirit feels affirmed instead of hyped, if you feel a deep knowing instead of urgency, then this message did what it was sent to do, and now it is time to agree with heaven, not loudly, not desperately, but confidently. So if this resonated, type in the comments. This was released for me, Let that be your declaration. And if this message strengthened you, like and subscribe, not for numbers, but so this confirmation can reach other chosen ones who are still questioning their silence. Because this space exists to gently spread God's light, remind you of who you are, and walk with you as what was released with your name on it finally begins to meet you in peace.